So I'm just going to get started. So welcome to the stroke webinar series. Let's see if this is all working. Okay, great. So today's presentation will be on the why and how exercise after stroke. So just making sure that you are doing enough into your day-to-day activities and your weekly schedule. And so I should introduce myself. My name is Marlou. I am the Exercise Physiologist Team Leader here at Advanced Rehab Centre. So the topics that we'll be covering in today's presentation. So what is an accredited exercise physiologist? How we can get you fit and the benefits beyond just getting you fit. The importance of aerobic exercise and cardiovascular training in stroke recovery. Getting you the right dosage and intensity of aerobic exercise and getting you the help that you need to help meet the physical activity guidelines. There will be a bit of a case study to see it all in action here at ARC. And finally, time for Q&A at the end. So if you can, feel free to type in your questions in the chat as we go. And hopefully there'll be a few questions there that I'll be able to answer in the end. So what is an exercise physiologist? So an exercise physiologist, or EPs, are university qualified allied health professionals who specializes in the delivery of exercise and lifestyle programs for persons with a broad range of chronic conditions. And as for me at ARC, ARC specializes in neurological conditions and complex disabilities. So we like to think of ourselves as the experts in understanding the body's physiological response to exercise. And we use this knowledge to treat specific diseases or conditions, such as stroke, based on evidence-based practice and research. So essentially, EPs will use exercise as medicine to help treat and achieve specific health outcomes. So whether it is your cardiovascular fitness, muscle strength, or muscle endurance, in order to maximize an individual's functional capacity or quality of life. Not only that, as ARC EPs, we also provide education about the importance of physical activity, the advice and support on the long-term care management of your stroke, as well as helping you find ways to participate back into social activities and community programs. So before we dive in, I do want to give some quick numbers and facts taken from the Stroke Foundation in 2020 here in Australia to help set the context of today's presentation. So there were over 27,000 Australians who experienced a stroke for the first time in their lives in 2020. This equates to one stroke every 19 minutes. 1 in 4 people globally will have a stroke in their lifetime. Stroke is one of Australia's biggest killers, with more than 445,000 Australians living with the effects of stroke. More than 80% of strokes could have been prevented or treatable with lifestyle intervention and increased physical activity levels. In 2020, 24% of total first ever strokes occurred in people aged 54 years and under. So sadly, the rates of stroke in young people are on the increase, largely due to poor control of lifestyle factors, and its impact will continue to grow unless action is taken. So currently around 20 strokes a day are impacting Australians of working age, many of which may still have children living at home, which leaves a devastating impact on their family role, as well as their new life after stroke. So without action, by 2050, it is predicted that the number of first ever strokes experienced by Australians annually will increase to 1 stroke every 10 minutes. And the last little fact is that somebody who has suffered a stroke has an accumulated risk of a subsequent stroke of 43% over 10 years, which is a huge stat. So as EPs here at ARC, we would love to bring these numbers down through lifestyle intervention and through increased physical activity levels. So with all that in mind, how can we get you fit? Okay, so we do know that there are lots of crossover between physio and EP, particularly by the time we see you at our clinic or in the community. But the sooner that you see an EP, the better, as there are many ways an EP can help towards your functional goals. So the benefits of introducing EP early in your rehab includes establishing an individualized cardiovascular fitness training program, as well as a progressive resistance training program that is tailored to you. So let's start with a proper cardiovascular fitness training program. So this includes assessing your baseline fitness levels and getting you started with helping you monitor your own intensity and dosage to the correct amount to help you maximize your stroke recovery, particularly in the early stages when you are relearning new movements for the first time, but also to help you long-term in staying physically active. Another thing we look at is establishing a resistance training program or a strength training program that is progressive so that you have the baseline strength and endurance to complete functional tasks at home or in the community. And this will help complement the kind of work that you are already working on or doing with your physio OT in your sessions. So this includes things like your transfer practice, your sit to stands, balance practice, walking, and navigating stairs. So there are always going to be an element of strength involved in these tasks, and you need to be strong enough to be able to do this effectively and to help prevent injury. And lastly, specific exercise programs to improve the energy systems required for these activities of daily living. So without going into too much depth in this, we do need to train the different energy systems which play a huge role with fatigue management. And this will help improve your energy levels to complete everyday tasks more efficiently, and also to have the fitness reserves in your body battery to do much more in your daily life. Okay, and there are many more benefits that an EP can help you with beyond just getting you fit. So this includes identifying your risk factors that can be modified and giving you the advice on the necessary lifestyle changes. So we know that stroke survivors do not meet the required exercise dosage or even meet the requirements of the minimum physical activity guidelines. So this predisposes them to more sedentary lifestyles and the development of secondary metabolic conditions such as obesity, diabetes, or worse, a recurrent stroke. And we all need to address this as EPs on an ongoing basis. And this leads me on to making sure that we set you up and support you on your long-term exercise habits and help develop routines to establish a more active lifestyle, particularly in your early stages of your rehab journey. So it is our job to establish this early with you and make sure we've given you enough tools, the coaching, the confidence and motivation needed to live a more positive and healthier lifestyle. So it becomes more and more part of your everyday routine. The next thing is another concept is personalized flexible delivery. So this is the concept we use here at ARC, where there's goal-based goals versus a concept we call at ARC undercover rehab or therapy. So as EPs, we know that there are going to be different approaches to your intervention, and we know that your one-to-one therapy or your group programs could look different to another stroke survivor, depending on your goals and your needs. So we do take into account your level of disability, your stage of recovery, your exercise tolerance, activity limitations, as well as your physical activity preferences. and also your available social support when we do set you up with an individualized program for the first time. So the challenge for us as EPs is then how do we create programs and activities that would increase your participation back into everyday life and your involvement with the family and also in the community. So not all of our clients will have these functional goals, and we need to explore other options on how we can increase your physical activity levels by using ARC's undercover rehab. So this could look like things like joining or a group program in the clinic or in the community that you enjoy doing. So this could be a walking or cycling group. It could be returning to the local gym or getting you set up at the local gym for the first time. It could be accessing parks and beaches with your support workers, or even participating in a running or cycling event that will help keep you motivated throughout the year. So these are some of the many benefits an EP can bring to you and many other stroke survivors here at ARC, which is beyond just getting you fit. So these are some of the images taken from ARC. So the first one on the top left, we have one of our ARC clients, Dean, and his EP, Lisa, completing a full 42K marathon that they've been training over a course of a year. And then we also got in the bottom right, our client, David, and his EP, Jason, in the pool at Coleroy Beach, completing their hydrotherapy sessions as part of the beach day programs that we hold during the summer months. Okay, so why is aerobic exercise or fitness training important to get you fit? So this is a bit of a science. Hopefully you're able to stay with me with this. So this is what we know. So we know that it does improve aerobic capacity, or VO2 max. So VO2 max is a measure of cardiorespiratory fitness that an EP would use as an assessment tool. So in general, VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen transported from the lungs to the working muscles in a graded exercise test. So you might have done a test with an EP already before, but this is important for us and for us to know, because stroke is caused by a lack of oxygen supply to the brain, which is also caused by an infarct or a blockage. So knowing these VO2 max scores is actually one of the best predictors for survival following a stroke. And there is a direct association with life expectancy and the risk of developing cardiovascular diseases or a recurrent stroke. So we also know that total cerebral blood flow increases by 25 to 30% during aerobic exercise. So again, this is the blood supply to the brain in a given period of time, and therefore bringing vital nutrients to the brain and removal of harmful waste. So we know that aerobic exercise has been shown to decrease inflammation in the central nervous system and can have a neuroprotective effect on the brain following a stroke. We also see increases in BDNF and other neurotrophic factors. So brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, is released after a bout of aerobic exercise, particularly at higher intensities. So to put simply, BDNF is like fertilizer for the brain, allowing for motor relearning and also firing regions of the brain that is responsible for movement. So at the correct intensity and correct dosage, aerobic exercise can promote neurogenesis, which is the growth of new neuron connections formed in the brain. And this will last for up to 10 to 60 minutes following a bout of aerobic exercise. So what this means essentially is that you do want to be working at high aerobic intensities at the start of your session through cardio or fitness training, to help you improve on your functional goals or outcomes within your physio OT session. We also see a reduction in resting and working heart rate, as well as blood pressure due to the reduced mechanical stress of your arteries. This allows you to have improved energy levels and ability to sustain higher workloads for longer periods without fatiguing. Next thing is that we also see improved insulin sensitivity and body composition. So this helps control the amount of sugar in the blood, which then reduces the risk of developing metabolic conditions such as obesity and diabetes. And lastly, reduce stress and anxiety and depression. So aerobic exercise can help to the same degree as medications like antidepressants in mild to moderate cases, and therefore improving one's self-esteem, confidence, and perceived quality of life. So what does this mean for you? Okay, so improved fitness levels could be the difference for you being able to participate back into your rehab, back into activities of daily living, and giving you the sense of worth, a sense of purpose, and responsibility back into your family role, back into the community, or even a sense of purpose in your life. So it could give you the confidence and motivation to strive for more higher level goals, such as returning to work, study, other hobbies, or even participating back into sports. But we do know that increasing participation in all of these areas will ultimately lead to a better quality of life. And it is our job as ARC EPs to give you the best shot and opportunity on a new life after stroke. Okay, so with all that in mind, how do we get you there? How do we make sure that you are getting the right amount of aerobic exercise? So this is what the literature and evidence say, and this can be broken up into the components of the FITT principle, which consists of frequency, intensity, time, and type. And this is the exercise dose or quantity needed to improve health outcomes similar to medications. And this is a specific protocol that is used following a stroke in the early stages of stroke recovery and rehab. So in regards to frequency, the most common frequency was 3 times a week for 8 to 12 weeks, which all showed significant between group differences in VO2 max scores or fitness scores. In regards to time, in people after stroke, it is recommended that aerobic exercise should last for 20 to 60 minutes per session or several 10-minute bouts per day. So in the literature, most studies found exercise interventions starting between 10 to 20 minutes initially, and then progressing to 40 to 60 minutes per session. So depending on your presentation, it may be appropriate for someone who does have poor endurance, or for those who have moderate to severe deficits, to start at 10 minutes of continuous exercise, or until you're able to tolerate longer durations. In regards to type, aerobic exercise can consist of overground walking, treadmill training with or without bodyweight support, cycling, and recumbent stepping. So all of which have been shown to improve cardiorespiratory fitness, and this has also been recommended during inpatient rehab. And lastly, the most important part of aerobic exercise is the intensity and dosage. So aerobic capacity will improve if intensity is regularly maintained over 55% of heart rate max. So to put this in context, this is considered a brisk walking pace where you are starting to work just outside your comfort zone. So if we are using the talk test, you are starting to breathe more heavily, but you can still speak brief sentences. Okay, the physical activity guidelines. So once you do, or once you have built enough fitness, then it is time for you to meet the physical activity guidelines from the World Health Organization. So we do know as ARC EPs that our stroke population are already on the back foot of meeting these requirements following a stroke. And it is our job to address this early because we know that our stroke survivors have an accumulated risk of a subsequent stroke of 43% over the next 10 years. So these are the type of questions that our ARC EPs will typically ask you, so we can find as much information about your current physical activity levels. So things that we'd ask you is how many days of the week are you active? What activities did you do? Of those days, how many days did you participate in moderate to vigorous exercise? So again, we use a talk test for this, and we would check if you were able to hold a conversation. What is your daily or weekly step count? So for us to check this, your Apple or Samsung phone will have a pedometer on your health app, and we would first work out your baseline levels and then set a weekly goal or target for you. And this would be increased over time. If you don't have a phone on you, we would just use an activity tracker, and we would just list down the amount of time of physical activity that you did for the day or for the week. Another thing that we would ask is, did you complete your home exercise program? What does that home exercise program involve? Are you getting enough aerobic and strength exercises in your program? And then we would compare all of this information of your stats to the physical activity guidelines recommended, and then start to put together a bit of a plan for you. But we also know that there are some limitations to using this guideline, both in a stroke or neurological population. So I'll go through this with you in the next slide. So yes, just to highlight, the guidelines are just a guide, but our role as EPs are recognizing that the guidelines are there to set targets, but to also recognize that you may have functional or cognitive limitations, which are barriers to people within a stroke population. So therefore, the targets for physical activity need to be tailored specifically for you, and we can determine that as EPs, what is considered structured exercise in terms of the dose and intensity that is relative to your current lifestyle and your regular day-to-day activities. Once we do establish this, it is our role to progressively increase your dose of aerobic exercise when you have conditioned or adapted to a certain level of intensity in your exercise program. And then we'll monitor this over time to allow for further improvements to occur. But at the same time, we also have the skills and knowledge to know when to pull it back and at times regress the intensity when required. So for example, we'll consider other factors that might be affecting your exercise tolerance or capacity, such as your sleep and energy levels, the side effects of medications, other cardiovascular risk factors, such as atrial fibrillation or AF, or maybe it's your current mental health and well-being contributing to your low motivation levels to exercise. So these are some of the things we'll take note of and help put the steps in place to overcome these barriers for you. So this is the evidence for physical activity, so suggesting that there is a clear dose-response relationship for exercise intensity, both in regards to mortality risk and the risk of cardiovascular disease. So engaging in regular physical activity can reduce someone's risk of cardiovascular disease by 30 to 40%. The evidence for dosage includes 30 minutes of moderate intensity activity on 5 days a week, compared with no activity, was associated with a reduction in mortality risk of 19%. But the higher the intensity is more beneficial than low intensity by up to 20%. But the key message that I want to make clear is that any physical activity is better than none. And I put this slide here to help make the link for our clients. So I just wanted to highlight with making this link between neurological disease and cardiovascular disease. So when we look at any of our clients here at ARC, they either fall into the at-risk category because their cardiovascular event, such as a stroke, was a precursor to their neurological deficit or impairments, or their neurological condition will become the precursor to the development of a secondary health condition, such as diabetes, obesity, or worse, a recurrent stroke, due to a decline in their function or reduced physical activity levels. So no matter what way you look at it, the challenge or role as ARC EPs is to help get you moving and to help structure as much aerobic exercise into your program and increase your day-to-day activities or physical activity levels into your daily routine. Okay, so this video here is a snapshot of us as ARC EPs working alongside both our physio and OT team on their functional goals, both in the clinic and in the community. Okay, so as you saw in the video, this is just a closer look of Norma in our EP session. So Norma is a 50-year-old lady who suffered a stroke back in August 2017. Her goals were around to improve function of her left affected upper limb. So she's able to cook and clean for her son. And she was seeing our physio and OT for this. Her next goal was to also improve her walking capacity without fatiguing. So she can walk to the shops and do her grocery shopping and walk back while holding her shopping bags. So the first video here in the top left, we set Norma up in the clinic with a cardiovascular fitness training program in the clinic using our treadmill and harness. She'd also been completing a home exercise strength program that she completed on most days, which also include an outdoor walking program. And we were able to track her weekly steps and gradually increase her step count each week. In this next video here, you can see Norma completing more high-level balance training in our clinic. So she was more confident walking independently in the community. You can see in the video she's standing on a foam, which provides an unstable surface, and also been walking at fast speeds where she can do this safely unsupported without the use of her aids. In this next video, we're able to get her set up at her local gym for the first time, and was attending regularly outside of her therapy sessions or in between her therapy sessions. And as a result, Norma was able to make new social connections and friendships. And now she attends a weekly yoga class with her new friends. So this is Norma working on her affected left arm. And now more recently, over the last 6 months, Norma was able to climb a set of stairs unassisted, which allows her to get to the shops all on her own. And she's now able to use her left affected hand to hold vegetables and meat to cut on the chopping board, which has made a huge difference to Norma's independence and quality of life. Okay, so here are the key takeaways for today's presentation. So number one, are you getting enough exercise in your day? So reflect for a moment on your own physical activity levels and whether you are participating in adequate physical activity or have structured exercise plan during the day or even the week. If not, as RKPs, we can help you identify these barriers and help find ways to overcome this with you. Number two, the importance of aerobic exercise and cardiovascular training in stroke recovery. So we know that improved fitness levels will allow you to engage better and maximize your functional outcomes in recovery sooner in your stroke rehab or recovery. And number three, how to get the right dosage and intensity of exercise to make a difference. So as EPs, this is what we do best. We like to individualize your exercise training program that is tailored to your goals and to your needs. So let us take the guesswork from you so you can get back to doing all the things that you want to do sooner. So that concludes the presentation. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to write the text on the Q&A box. Okay. Chat is disabled, but I can hear you. Let's have a look. So I've just wrote in the chat. If anyone has any questions, feel free to okay. Okay, how early after a stroke can you start an exercise program? So it really depends on the actual severity of your condition or the actual stroke itself. But it is encouraged to participate in an exercise program as soon as you're in your inpatient rehab or at the hospital. And they will try to get you, I guess, getting started and participating in any kind of physical activity on depending on what you can or can't do. So that'll be a graded process. It's all going to be very tailored to your condition. But once your functional capacity has you've regained as much functional capacity, then we can start to look at improving your cardiovascular fitness, both in inpatient rehab or out in the community. Raise hand. Chat's still closed. Okay, that's strange. Oh, there you go.
Sorry,
it's Sandra.
Yeah, I just wanted to say it's never too late either to do the exercise, because I had my strokes during surgery, and that was 15 years ago. Almost 16 years now, and I'm still getting benefits from exercising now, recovering from that stroke. So it's never too late, as well as being never too early.
That's great, Sandra. I think I got most of that in terms of you participating into an exercise program. How long have you been doing an exercise program?
I've been doing different ones for 16 years, because that's how long ago my stroke was, and right. I'm still getting improvement in that side for even 16 years later. So it's never too late. You can't give up hope.
That's great, Sandra. I'm going to answer this question from Frank. So what is the benefit of continuing rehab after 5 or 10 years post-stroke? What improvement can be expected? So I guess to answer that, let's say it is 10 years post-stroke. Everyone's baseline fitness levels is going to be different to someone's 10 years post-stroke. But as EPs, we'll kind of assess where your baselines are at. And depending on a more structured program that we'll tailor for you, we'll always find ways to help progress the intensity so that you're getting that dosage that you need to improve your fitness levels. So the improvements will be on improving your aerobic capacity, ensuring that you're doing the physical activity levels in between to make sure that you're actually improving your scores after a more tailored program. So if your goal is to improve fitness, we'll definitely find ways to maximize this for you, whether it's through an exercise program in the clinic or at the community or even at your gym. We'll find ways to ensure that you're really maximizing the dosage within your sessions. Hope that answers that, Frank. there any last little bits of questions? All right, final call on questions.
I think it covers the topic well.
All right. I am going to close the questions, guys. Hopefully you found the presentation informative and you got something out of this. But yeah, please enjoy the rest of the webinar series to come during the week.